Testing 1, 2, 3. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. I got a problem. Okay. That's better. Can you guys still see me and hear me? Let me make sure. Okay. But I can't see the chat. Ooh. Okay, you hear me? Okay, now I see the chat. All right. I had to refresh in my stream. Yes, thank you guys. Hi. Listen, I usually go live at 3 on Wednesdays. I'm trying to stick to that 3 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, possibly Friday. But I always do it to myself. I said, let me push it back to 6 because I needed some more time to prepare my notes and videos and stuff like that. And then I pushed up my 6 o'clock clip video that I was premiering to 3. I don't know. It's doing okay, but it probably would have did better at 6 if I would have just kept the time. And that's the whole point of me telling you this is what I decide in the beginning, I need to stick to it. I need to stop changing up at the last minute because it never works out for me. This is just me. This is just me. So I say all that to say, I have to add a little bit of my own process that I like to share with you guys. Listen, please like this video, share this video. Like and share the video. Get in that comment section. I do have a goal, if you please so kindly send in a super chat. And I hope you guys enjoy. I may open up the phone lines. It depends. If I'm good on time, I'll open up the phone lines. And yeah, I wasn't going to wear the hat, but I don't really, the girl who does my braids, she does a really good job. But I don't know, my head is just getting bigger. Maybe because I'm losing weight, so it's making my head look bigger than it already is. So the hat camouflages it until I get another hairstyle. I keep forgetting to get a new earplugs as I need to get this got together. But anyway, we're gonna have a really good show. Tariq Nasheed versus 19 Keys, right? It's not that serious, but I have some questions specifically for 19 Keys. And I did put a poll in the chat. Should Tariq Nasheed take 19 Keys out of his documentary? I say no. What say you? But apparently some old clips, old because it wasn't recent, resurfaced online. And of course, people grab it and do content. And it was basically 19 Keys saying, not being disrespectful, but questioning FBA movement as an organization and stuff like that. So, and then of course, I'm going to play another clip because 19 Keys have been in different countries in Africa. I believe he's in Nigeria right now. He was in Uganda. He opened up a coffee business. And so he's trying to say, hey, come over here and do business. That's all well and good. But I have some questions for him with that. So yeah, I'm going to start off with that. And then we have to talk about the African reparations. Listen, I did a video over a month ago on President Trump executive order withdrawing the United States from all international organizations. So he stopped billions of dollars from going to multiple organizations. Some of those organizations specifically was African organizations, reparations, restitutions, Pan-African organizations. He said, hell to the no. You're not getting nothing, nada. So the president of Ghana visited New York City this week. He stopped at the African burial site. We're going to get into that because I have to put that blame on us FBA people. Yeah. Because once upon a time, we were toting African American, African this, African that in the 90s and the 80s and even the early 2000s. I'm just saying, we opened up that door. But so yeah, I'm gonna get into that. So I may open up the phone lines, depend how I do on time. I don't have a video dropping later, so I do have time. So I think, and I do want to hear from you guys, and I have not opened up the phone lines, but I want to get into the show first. And so let's start with Tariq Nasheed. I need to change my background up a little bit. I guess I'll put this as the background. Let me get my thing strolling at the bottom. Yes, yes, yes. Share, share, share. What we doing? What we doing? All right. I want to start off with the 19 Keys clip because this is kind of what set it off. It's a 55-minute clip. It looks old, but honey, apparently, when you say something negative about FBA, then social media are gonna go crazy. Let me get this situated. Make myself bigger here. Hi. Put myself up here. All right, let's get into it. So this is what 19 Keys had to say about Tariq Nasheed and hashtag FBA.
Essentially, a lot of this is centered around foundational Black Americans. That is a lineage-based group who does act like an organization or a movement with a center head, which would be Tariq Nasheed. Now, he says that he is not the head of it. It's a lineage, right? And we are not a group, but he definitely acts like, the leader of the group, if you will. And then there is the way that they treat and talk about Africans. So it's very demeaning, right? They talk about delineation, right? Which is a separation and saying that, look, we are Black Americans. We are not associated with other groups and we don't want to be grouped and classed in as well. We are from America, right? We have our rights in America and we're going to continue to make strides and progress here in this land, which is not a foreign concept, right? When there were schemes to push the Black, you're right. Essentially, a lot of this is centered around foundational Black Americans. That is a lineage-based group.
Okay, so he was talking. I don't know what podcast this is. I know O'Shea Jackson. He did a video on this, and he had this clip. So I was on X, and I said, "X, give me the full video of this interview." But he just gave me O'Shea Jackson video. But I wanted the actual interview where this podcast was. I don't know, but it looks like it was a while ago. He's not saying anything negative. He's basically trying to explain to the guy what's this FBA lineage movement about. And he's essentially saying Tariq Nasheed is acting as a leader. Well, Tariq Nasheed coined the term foundational Black American. He copyrighted, which he should have. That is, you supposed to, right? And I'm glad he did, but of course he's going to always handle business. And so it's not an organization, it is a lineage. And what kind of disturbs me a little bit when we're talking about people such as 19 Keys, he's very smart, very intelligent. He knows the difference between an organization and a movement, an organization and a lineage. So I guess he's trying to say it's not an organization, but it's acting like one. No, it's not acting like an organization. Organizations actually have an agenda and they push that agenda, do public policies, whether it's working with their local government officials or Congress or directly at the White House or whatever. There's no agenda. There's no 10-point plan like CARICOM and these other African organizations that wants money from us via the transatlantic slave trade. We'll get to that soon. So it's not an organization, and he knows that. And apparently, Tariq Nasheed had him in the recent documentary Hidden Colors, I believe 6, that's coming out. And I didn't know about this clip until I woke up today and I saw Tariq Nasheed talking about recent comments that he heard about 19 Keys. So I want to share Tariq Nasheed response before I put my 2 cents in it. So this is what Tariq Nasheed had to say in response to that particular clip.
I didn't want to address it then because we're in the middle of a campaign of the crowdfunding, so I don't want to. I wanted to stay focused. So we got that taken care of, staying focused. So now we got to address the 19 Keys situation because this is pivotal to the film. Okay. Now we had 19 Keys in the film. Now 19 Keys is a brother, met him a few years ago. It was always respect with me and 19 Keys. Always respect. I'm gonna tell y'all what happened. I'm gonna tell y'all what went down. I'm gonna tell y'all what went down. All right. Again, I met 19 Keys. I was cool with 19 Keys. Never had a problem with 19 Keys. Never, always respected him. Always showed him love. I've been on his broadcast before. We chopped it up. He on the Earn Your Leisure channel. I mean, the interview he did with me. I didn't charge him or nothing, and it got like damn near 2 million views. Like one of the biggest interviews on that channel. Like in the top, at least the top 5 biggest interviews on that channel. So yeah. And I sat with this man, talked to him face to face for hours. And I've been out to lunch with him and Shaka Bars. They invited me to lunch. We done chopped it up. I mean, for real, we done chopped it up. Then I invited him to be in Hidden Color 6, came on down, had a great conversation, had him in Hidden Color 6. All right. Everything was cool to me. But there was a video that surfaced, family. There was a video that surfaced of 19 Keys. I don't know how old the video is. It can't be too old. I don't know how old the video is. But the video was a little slightly disrespectful to me and our lineage. He was like, yeah, FBA operates as a group and Tariq acts like the leader. And that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Let me show y'all the clip. Let me just do it like this. Let me show you the clip, family. All right. Now, this is what was said. I'm going to show you the clip. This is the clip. All right. Hold on one second. So he did this. Now, somebody put this up. This isn't my clip, but other people found this clip and put it up. Now, this is what he said exactly.
Essentially, a lot of this is centered around foundational Black Americans. That is a lineage-based group who does act like an organization or a movement with a center head, which would be Tariq Nasheed. Now, he says that he is not the head of it. It's a lineage, right? And we are not a group, but he definitely acts like, the leader of the group, if you will. And then there is the way that they treat and talk about Africans. So it's very demeaning, right? They talk about delineation, right, which is a separation and saying that, look, we are Black Americans. We are not associated with other groups, and we don't want to be grouped and classed in as well. We are from America, right? We have our rights in America, and we're going to continue to make strides and progress here in this land, which is not a foreign concept, right? When there were schemes to push the Black, you're right. Essentially, a lot of this is
Okay, cool. So that's basically it. Okay. Why 19 Keys would say some bullshit like that, I don't know. Why this man would say that, family, I don't know why that man would say. He knows that's not true. You know what I'm saying? Why would he say that? That's not true, and he knows that. You know? And again, I've sat down with 19 Keys for hours. He's never said none of this to me face to face. You know? I done interviewed with him. Again, we done went out to lunch and all that stuff for hours. None of this stuff, all of this could have been said to me if it was like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
When we went down, what did we do? The Revolt Summit. We were down there together. We're chopping it up down there. Nothing but respect. See, that's the problem. If you think some bullshit, okay, you think some bullshit. But if you chopping it up with me and you got my number, you hit me up, and we done seen each other, and we out having lunch, and I'm interviewing you, and you interviewing me, and you acting like everything is cool, but you harbor that type of shit. And it's not like 19 Keys don't know that's some bullshit what he said. He knows that's bullshit what he said. He knows that. That's why, okay, why would you say that? Why do y'all think he said that, family? Why do y'all think he said that?
All right. So I'm just going to pause it, stop it there. Right. That was enough. So that's a good question. Why do you think he said it? My question is, why is this coming out now? Now, when Tariq dropped the trailer for Hidden Color 6 a couple weeks ago, because that's coming out soon. He just ended his Kickstarter fundraiser, which he made his goal and beyond, which is great. And then now this. And I always look at it, when you have something that you're pushing out as part of a marketing tactic, you need a little bit of controversy. So is this promo for the new documentary? Because now the question is, should he take 19 Keys out? Apparently he already took out Professor James Small, because that debacle that happened months ago. And I defended Professor James Small, and I defend him now because that should have been handled much better. However, here we are today, and then this comes out. So should Tariq Nasheed take him out of the documentary? I say no, and here's why. 19 Keys is a Pan-African. He's always been a Pan-African. Professor Small is a Pan-African. He's always been a Pan-African since day one, right, of doing the Hidden Colors. Tariq Nasheed knows this. You know the agenda of Pan-Africanism. They're going to put Africa first. They're intelligent. 19 Keys is intelligent. He has successful businesses. I'm not up here to say anything negative about 19 Keys, or anyone, but I want to be very objective. You knew this man was a Pan-African. So is Professor Small. So that means they're going to always put Africa first. Unregulated says if he removes 19 Keys, then he should hide all the Pan-Africanism in Hidden Colors 1 through 5. Absolutely. Because majority of the people in Hidden Colors are Pan-Africans. And it's nothing wrong with that. However, when you do go on some podcasts, and that interview could have been last year sometime, recent but not recent. When you do go on podcasts and you have a direct contact number with Tariq Nasheed and you've seen her multiple times, why haven't you just casually had this conversation? Now, nobody has a right to regulate what somebody says anywhere. You're not going to tell me what I should and should not say. I don't care. There's a lot of people that got pissed off when I defended Professor James Smalls. I don't give a fuck because I'm still going to be here. However, if you felt as though 19 Keys, that is too much of a diaspora war thing going on, and you think that it's FBA that started it, have that conversation with Tariq. And the conversation was on your mind before you went in that person's podcast. So it does look suspect, but why should you be surprised when he is a Pan-African? You already had this man in your film, Hidden Color 6. Nobody didn't bring this to your attention until now? Please. The way social media works, whether anybody knew that 19 Keys was going to be in a documentary or not, anybody, whether they're known or not, say anything negative against Tariq Nasheed or FBA, they're on it. So all of a sudden this comes out, that's suspect. That was intentional because I believe Tariq Nasheed, you had to have seen that clip. You had to. And I'm sorry, FBA, you guys are slipping, because how did you let that go by you without noticing? Either way, keep them in. Keep them in a documentary. You're always going to have someone critiquing you, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't agree with everything Tariq Nasheed said. I don't agree with everything that Judge Joe Brown said, and I have a right to disagree. We all have a right to our own opinions and perspectives. Now, I want to play this second video of 19 Keys talking about doing business in Africa. And I'm sorry if you guys want to get sensitive. He said this about FBA and it's not true. Okay. Grow some thick skin. Don't support them. Now, this video that I want to play, this TikTok video 19 Keys did. Is it this one? Yeah. I do have some questions. What is this?
When you go look at,
Oh no.
means they have the youth.
How can I make this bigger? Oh, I can't. Okay. So let me bring it back this way. All right. So don't be mad of what 19 Keys said about FBA or Tariq Nasheed. Tariq Nasheed has thick skin. He don't give a shit. He could take them out. He could leave them in. You know, he still has his following. He's still very influential in society. I always get his documentaries. You know, he put out positive content. But this clip here is what we need to be concerned about. People need to be critiquing this clip. So I'm going to play it.
Talking to people that do not do global business. Most of the time, people don't even have the value, right, to exchange in another place to even be having this conversation in the first place. I'm not talking about saving Africans, right? Most of all, y'all know my saying, save yourself. That's not what I even think they need. And nor do I think that Africans need more Africans, right? There's a lot of Africans already in Africa. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is a value exchange. Let me break it down to you, right? So I was in Uganda. Uganda has a GDP somewhere around $30-something billion, right? Black America has a buying power of somewhere around $1.8 trillion. The global African GDP is stated to be somewhere around $3.2 trillion, while they say what's inside the minerals of Africa is somewhere around $44 trillion, and I think really is incalculable. But let's just say we're going by those numbers. Uganda has about 48 million people. Black America has about 48 million people, right? Our buying power is larger than their GDP by 10 times over, right? Now, when I'm thinking about something like that, and I go to a place like that, that has the average age of, you know, the person somewhere around 15 years old, right? Then we look at 30% of the population, no, 70% of the population is under the age 30. Under the age 30. Just take that into account for a second. That means they have the youth, right? The average age in Africa is 19 years old, right? The average age in Europe, to give you contrast, is 44 years old. So that means that Africa is 20 years younger than Europe. Africa has the future, and so does India, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. Now, when I think about doing business over there, first of all, I want to talk to the entrepreneurs, the global entrepreneurs, the leaders, the creators, right? The influencers, right? The infrastructure people, right? You have an arbitrage of value outside this country, to me, that I think is 10 to 100x. And when I was out there focusing on doing the business deals specifically for Supermine so that we can source some of that Ugandan coffee, because things that grow on the Ugandan Ugandan soil, right, are high value. Why do I say that? And this is why it's important to understand and to travel to get these experiences. When I was out there, I learned that, you know, thousands of years ago, of course, Uganda had volcanoes. These volcanoes, when you breathe in the ash, it's terrible for us. But once it goes into the soil and it mixes with the soil, right, over thousands of years and hundreds of years, what ended up happening is all the minerals that came from the earth, right, are now within that soil. Magnesium, potassium, all the things that you can think of. So it also has a climate that is closer to the sun because Uganda is right there at the equator, right? Meaning that it is very rich because you're going to get more condensed, right, mineralization. So this is why they actually have the strongest caffeinated coffee in the world, called a Robustus coffee, right? Them, and then you got Ethiopia with a whole nother one, but they can grow high grade and low grade because they soil literally can grow anything. They have a population of people who actually don't even need to make money to survive because there's such abundance of food everywhere. When I say everywhere, I mean everywhere you look, there's food, there's fruit, there's vegetation, right? You can spit on the ground and grow a clone of yourself. That's how good the fertile soil is. And then it's the most beautiful country I ever been to personally when you're talking about views, landscapes, because it's underdeveloped. And then it got me thinking like, God damn, the West is overdeveloped. Right now, when I'm talking to tourism board, talking to the president, talking to all these different people about business inside that country, right, they did not see what I was seeing. I see a story to be told about wellness, the cognitive garden of Uganda, right? I see a story to where there's so many opportunities that if Black Americans went out there, all we would see is opportunities for us to do business. Then I start thinking about this because they start talking about value addition. They said what happens out there, the problem is that they're always giving away the raw minerals, right? And what they mean by that is they take, when you know the process of coffee, they take a green bean first. This green bean gets exported. It doesn't get roasted. It doesn't get turned into a brand, then get sold as Ugandan coffee. Because oftentimes you might see Kenyan coffee and you might see other coffee and it might actually be from Uganda, right? But the problem is that the farmer is selling this for like a few dollars, you understand me, a pound. But by the time this leaves and goes to Africa, goes to another country and they selling it, right? They selling it for tens of dollars, hundreds of dollars, right? When you're talking about, increase in price. And so the Ugandan that's the coffee farmer might still be poor, right? Because they don't have the ability to make brands. They don't have the culture, media, and influential power like we have in America, where we can make a brand hot and make it worth billions of dollars like we've done for a long time. Then I think about that correlating to our story. They take raw minerals and they export it, right? Then by the time things are imported back into their country, they're buying it at 100x. Then we take raw influence and export it through media, language, right? Platforms, music, etc. We, as a people, when I'm saying we, I'm talking about Black Americans, we represent roughly 14% of the population, even though I believe that's somewhere around 19%. We can get into that another day. 14% of the population. But that 14% of the population influences 70% of pop culture, right? Now, if we're looking at that in terms of influence and what's the value of that, I calculate that to be somewhere around $5 to $7 trillion. Now, of course, give or take, which I would take to give more, right? Because I think that it's really incalculable, the value that we have. So think about how, Kanye West influenced brands that are worth billions and billions of dollars, but he don't own it, right? We make Twitter hot, right? But we don't own it. So we export raw influence, raw culture. We give that to the world without equity or ownership. So we're both getting bad deals. We've been getting bad contracts for the last 400 years.
Let me pause it right there. Because this is why we need to be critiquing what the hell he's saying in this video, not that 55-second clip with him trying to explain what FBA is or doing. So let's do a compare and contrast. Doing business in Africa has nothing to do with intermingling our lineage. So when we talk about foundational Black Americans, hashtag FBA, we're talking about a lineage. And he's right. We Black Americans are very influential worldwide. One thing I could say about Tariq Nasheed, he owns everything. He owns his intellectual property. That's what you're supposed to do. It sounds like what he is trying to explain in this video, and it's 15 minutes. I don't think I'm going to play the whole thing. He wants us to do business in Africa. Okay. Well, who is that going to benefit? the Africans in whatever country we do business in, or Black Americans. Africa is not controlled by Africans. Africa is not controlled by Africans. Africa is a continent. Africa is not controlled by Africans. And he said that. And I said it 3 times because Dr. Umar likes to repeat himself 3 times. You have China, you have Russia, you have France, you have the United States, you have the Netherlands, you have Portugal, you have all these European countries going back to the Berlin Conference to present day. Africa is not controlled by Africans. So we do business with China. If you're an entrepreneur here, or if you have, a mass corporation, United States, we do a lot of business in China. Should we intermingle our lineage with China? Business is business. It has nothing to do with lineage or culture. We do business with Europe. Now, aside from the actual Anglo-Saxons that are here in America, yeah, that could be their lineage, but they're not incorporating European culture because we have American culture. Business is business. So why does 19 Keys think because we are Black Americans, we should automatically do business with the Africans when the Africans don't really control shit? My next point. Are you, 19 Keys, and people like him connecting or bridging your African business with the United States, specifically Black Americans? Your coffee business that you're doing in Uganda, you're doing business right now in Nigeria. I don't know what that business is. Are you going to develop a bridge to bring your money and resources and influence from Africa back here? The Chinese do it. Asians, Chinese, Vietnamese, they have the hair industry on lock. So when you see these beauty supply stores popping up all over the United States, that is because their people globally, and they look out for one another. A lot of immigrants here, they come here, they make money, they open up businesses, they own homes, and they ship that wealth back to the country where they come from. So my question to you, 19 Keys, are you doing that? Are you going to Africa and starting up a successful business, right? Because you have the resources and the reach to do so. And are you bringing it back here? Are you going to hire Black Americans to work on your business there in Africa and Uganda and Nigeria, like the Chinese coming in to the continent of Africa and building Silk Roads and bringing their people into Africa, having babies with the African, diluting their lineage and their bloodline? Or are you building up only your personal wealth in that specific country in Africa? Are you only building your own personal wealth and helping that country you're in, specifically Uganda and Ugandans? And that has nothing to do with Black Americans. So you want more Black Americans to pick a country in Africa and do some type of business to benefit that said country. It doesn't make sense if it's not going to benefit America, specifically Black Americans, if you want that conscious Pan-African shit. Business is business, no matter what country you do business with. And you talk about a lot of business, and that's great. So the difference with FBA and the Pan-Africans and the Africans and everybody else is not a war, it's not hate. We are focused on our business here, on this land, on this soil. If I have an idea and I need product, I'm going to automatically look at China first because the products are cheaper or American made. So in order for anybody to do business overseas, they need to make money here first. So what are you doing to help the foundational Black Americans to build here and then expound outward? Ain't nobody traveling to Africa. whether they have the means or not. Everybody's not going to be an entrepreneur. But we need leaders in our community here in America to build up our communities, our household, our families. And one last thing. Where's your wife and child? Where's your wife and child? Because what is so different between Black Americans and everybody else, including the Africans, the some Europeans, the Arabs, the Asians, the Hispanics, the Mexicans, the South Americans, we're not building our family legacy fast enough. We're not getting married. We're not having kids like we should, or we're having a lot of kids, but we're poor. So you're just creating more poverty. And I did a video and I dropped it this past Sunday, Dr. Cress Welsing, and she broke all that down. So, sir, you have the means to have a wife and kids to start creating your legacy. So do not criticize Tariq Nasheed. He has his family and legacy. He has a building, his museum that he owns in LA. I don't know if it's Crenshaw or I forgot what part of LA, but it's in LA. He owns it. I think he's the only Black owner on that block. So make no mistake about it. He is entrenched in politics because he is a business owner, brick and mortar. He has his legacy. Where's yours? Because that's part of uplifting and empowering Black Americans. Or because you're Pan-African, if your focus is solely on Africa, then stay in Africa and stop worrying about so-called diaspora war, because there isn't any. There isn't any. When somebody say, listen, we have to cut off at a certain point, that's not hate. It's just business. Stand on business, standing on business. We have our own problems here that have to be resolved. Don't nobody got time for whatever, pick a country in Africa and do business. People like you have the means to do it. God bless you. But what are you doing to help us here? Africa, which I'm about to swing into now, they want United States to pay them reparations. Africa wants the United States to pay them reparations. They want our money for their so-called transatlantic slave trade, which they had a part in doing. They participated in that. But you want to latch on to Black American suffering and struggle here in America to put money in your pocket. Africa. Trump said hell to the no. So let's get into that. And I'm not calling 19 Keys a scammer. I'm just saying, if your focus is business in Africa, then stay the fucking Africa. Don't criticize Black Americans here. Two different issues. We have our own problems. We are building here. We are standing on business here. What are you doing to help us here? See, you're out for self and you are trying, I guess, to teach people how to build their own personal wealth. But part of building wealth is building a healthy legacy, which you have not even started. And a lot of these guys, even the Umars and all these other guys that want to sit up here and talk about this Pan-African, let's all come together and go back to Africa type shit. You're not married. You don't have kids, or you have multiple baby mamas. You're not even creating a damn legacy, and you have the means to do it. So you're in no place to critique, to comment on financial Black American business. What am I doing here? So I want to get into this. President Mahama, he's the president of Ghana, leads a wreath laying ceremony at an African burial ground at the National Monument in New York City. And I actually took my kids here. They even have a museum. It is, I would suggest when you go to New York, you visit this sacred place. But look who's in the photo. Al Sharpton, the mayor Mandani, the president of Ghana, all grifters. All grifters.
Ghana is taking its reparations fight global, and it's aimed straight at the West. But inside the halls of the United Nations, the fight against slavery started on a very different note. What you just heard is not just performance. It's a political signal from Ghana that this fight is about identity, history, and now accountability. Minutes later, the mood quickly changed inside the UN halls. Ghana's President John Mahama took to the podium with a message that goes far beyond the celebration.
There's no such thing as a slave. There were human beings who were trafficked and then enslaved by people who believed they could own those human beings as chattels, as their personal property.
But this is not just about the past. John Mahama is linking history to what he says is happening right now. He accuses the United States, under Donald Trump, of normalizing the erasure of black history. He points to a series of moves by US administration that Trump calls anti-American. The timing of this attack is not accidental. Ghana is leading a global coalition. African, Caribbean, and global South nations have aligned to pass a UN resolution that seeks to formally recognize the transatlantic slave trade as one of history's greatest crimes against humanity.
So these Africans have developed, they're calling it the decade of reparations. You have to pay attention to the words. You have to read these people's agenda, a decade from 2026 to 2036. See, every city and state and county, every city you live in, where every city there is, have a 10-year plan. You should go knock on your city council and say, hey, show me the 10-year plan that the city has. Everybody has a 10-year plan. That's in just about every governmental capacity, every governmental section have a 10-year plan. These people ain't playing. They want money from the United States and all of Europe. But it's pretty funny. They ain't asking no money from the Middle East. But West Africa wants money from the United States and Europe. And they plan on getting it within 10 years. Why? Because in 10 years here in America, we're going to have a new administration in the White House. See, if Kamala Harris was elected, all those organizations that Trump withdrew us from, those international organizations, they would have been getting billions of dollars.
But more than that, Ghana says what they want is formal apologies and reparations from the West that they never received.
The perpetrators of the transatlantic slave trade are known. The Europeans, the United States of America. We expect all of them to formally apologize to Africa and to all people of African descent. After the apology, they have to clearly spell out mechanisms they are going to put in place to make sure that, one, all the looted artifacts are returned to the motherland. Two, the institutions that continue to perpetuate this, the structural racism that continues, are addressed. Three, the compensation, which has never been paid.
The numbers of the trade are staggering. Between the 16th and 19th centuries, over 12 million Africans were forcibly taken across the Atlantic. For Ghana, this is not abstract history. Places like Cape Coast Castle and Elmina Castle still stand as evidence. These are the sites where enslaved Africans were held before being forced onto ships across the Atlantic. Ghana says the impact of that system still shapes global inequality today. Its representative to the UN described the slave trade as an event that reshaped modern history.
This resolution advances a simple but profound proposition. The trafficking and racialized chattel enslavement of Africans was a world-breaking event. Supporting this resolution is not an act of accusation, it is an act of recognition. It is an affirmation that the international community possesses the moral confidence to name historical realities and learn from them.
But there is resistance. Ghana's foreign minister confirmed that the United States and European countries are not on board. Their position is simple. Today's states should not pay for centuries-old crimes.
But when you hear some Western leaders say that this is a matter in the past, let's leave it in the past, we are only looking forward. That, with all due respect, is a very insensitive thing to say. It means that you still do not value our dignity. You do not value our self-worth. How can you just look at us in the face and say, leave these matters in the past? Why have you not left other matters in the past? Why has the Holocaust not been left in the past?
What this really comes down to is control over history. Ghana is making its move now as the global push for reparations gains momentum. And this is bigger than one vote. The African Union has already declared 2026 to 2036 as the decade of reparations. Across Africa, the language is shifting. Countries like Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Ghana are increasingly rejecting Western aid if it comes with strings that undermine sovereignty. The push for reparations is now being framed as the correction of a power imbalance that has lasted for 400 years.
But my question is, why would you allow that to happen for so long? Why didn't you ask for reparations under Obama? Why didn't you have this decade of reparations when Obama was elected twice? Why now? I don't know. That's a good question. Why are these people pushing for reparations now? Well, maybe it's because of foundational Black Americans. Maybe it is. Maybe it's because of us. Maybe it's because we're the ones that are, number one, delineating, which weakens the Democrat Party, which is in lock and step with these Pan-African and these African nations. It's because of foundational Black Americans. That is why they have this decade. Now, before this decade reparations plan, they just had the year of return of reparations in 2024, 2025, right? But as soon as we started seeing, even before hashtag FBA, when it was ADOS, mind you, I was part of, not NARC, IBW, when they had a conference like 10 years ago. Yeah. was a wonderful conference. But what I didn't understand, what I realized towards the end is that they had a problem with ADOS. And this is before Tariq Nasheed created Foundation of Black Americans. ADOS was somewhat dead on arrival because the Pan-Africans, gatekeepers here, was so afraid. They didn't even want Trump to be elected, but he ended up being elected. This was around Trump running for presidency the first time. This is why these African nations are pushing for reparations from America, because they want to get to the bag before we do, because of Foundation of Black Americans. So when Tariq Nasheed coined FBA, it took off and it stayed to this day very high. Like, you're talking about influence. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And that is slowing down a lot of these gatekeepers, Black gatekeepers, power, influence, and money. So now Ghana, the Caribbean CARICOM, the Congressional Black Caucus, they're all in on it. So they're trying to get as much power back, political power, influence power, and money in their pockets because of Foundational Black Americans delineation. So yes, 19 Keys were correct. We have power. It's just a matter of how we executing that power. So this is the president of Ghana at the New York African burial site trying to pay his respects, right? Let me play this clip here.
Amongst people of African descent throughout the diaspora, as well as indigenous Africans on the continent, the collective rituals surrounding death are a communal experience, from its announcement to its recognition through ceremony. If you travel to Africa, from the top of the continent to the bottom, in most cities, towns, and villages, you will see notices of people's death. Not small obituaries in newspapers, but flyers, posters, and billboards plastered all around. Listed on them is usually a litany of names of the bereaved, not just immediate relatives, but also names of extended family members, whether local or living abroad, and tribal or community leaders. All of these people to whom the deceased belonged are listed on the obituary notices. And the funeral services are often attended by people.
So the noise that you heard in the background was the FBA, Foundational Black Americans. You know, these are New Yorkers. They actually have different organizations in New York. And this is Devon, honey. I had Devon several times on my platform, and I text his ass tonight. And I'll tell him he out busy. Wait a minute, is this him with the reply? Yes, honey. That's him. Wait a minute. Because I was trying to get Devon to come on the show tonight. Let me see if he pick up real quick. All right. Actually, I'll contact him later. So the noise that you heard in the background when that president was trying to speak was Foundational Black Americans protesting and pushing back, honey. And he had the motherfucking speaker with the microphone right there. Let me play.
Y'all was complicit. You don't get to sell us twice. Kwame Ansa was the chief that worked with the Portuguese to build Elmina Castle in the slave dungeon. The storm is passing over. You don't get to get reparations on the people you sold. Go home. Go home. These are Black American ancestors. The Ghanaians are complicit in slavery. They worked with the white supremacists that enslaved us on this land. You don't get reparations for a business deal gone bad. What y'all know about Order My Steps?
Order My Steps?
Yeah.
Listen, shout out to Devon and everybody that was out there, honey. They were right across the street. I'm telling you guys, if you live in the tri-state area, go visit that African burial. It is a beautiful burial site. Shout out to them. Now, here's the thing, though. You needed more people. You needed more people. And this is why foundational FBA, #FBA is not an organization. Because if it was an organization, you would have more people out there. It is a lineage. It's a lineage. However, Tariq Nasheed never said don't create your own organizations. And Devon has his organization in New York. And I give him a lot of grace because New York City and the 5 boroughs is majority immigrants than there are Black Americans. A lot of the Black Americans moved out or was pushed out. So the immigrants of all backgrounds outnumber the foundational Black Americans in the 5 boroughs in New York City. But it should have been more foundational Black Americans from out of town coming in. And a lot of people just didn't know. And I get that and I understand that. But that's where the work needs to be at. If you're going to protest, if you're going to push back, then you need to organize on the ground. Link up with Divine. Create your own organization where you're at. When we're holding X spaces, instead of arguing, just say, hey, this is happening. Who can meet me here? Let's get 50 people there. But they were right across the street disrupting that the president of Ghana laying a wreath. And let me tell you something. Africans had nothing to do with creating that burial site. That was foundational Black Americans that created that burial site. Real quick, because I'm going to have to do a part 2. Because I got to talk about Al Sharpton. I got to talk about Ben Crump. And I want to talk about what was said in that UN resolution. I'm going to record that and I'm going to drop that this weekend. So I'm going to skip that part because I have my notes here. And I want to go real quick to CARICOM. CARICOM is one of the main organizations that is linked up with a lot of these African nations, right? And throughout the Caribbean. Because at the UN, they said we have the support from CARICOM, from the Congressional Black Caucus, and other organizations in other countries. CARICOM has nothing to do with reparations for Black Americans, and that's fine. I actually met the chairman, Sir Hilary Beckles, great man. His focus is the Caribbean. Much respect to that. You never heard a Black American talk negative about CARICOM because we support reparations in your region. Just leave our shit the fuck alone. CARICOM has a 10-point plan. And part of that 10-point plan is an apology, Indigenous people development programs, funding for repatriation to Africa, establish institutions and a return of cultural heritage, assistance in remedying public health crisis, education programs, enhancement of historical and acknowledged exchanges, psychological rehabilitation, everything they have, we technically need it here, along with monetary compensation. I wanted to bring up this map here because you notice this is a map of the transatlantic slave trade, which the African nations went to the UN to have the resolution passed, which they did have that resolution passed. The resolution for reparations for Africa was passed at the UN, but you ain't getting no money from the United States. That's a wrap. Maybe some other countries, but Europe said F you too. However, if you look at this map, you look at the export of the Africans coming out of West Africa here, going into South America and going into the Caribbean, and then the resources abstracted from the Caribbean going back to Europe. You see no connection here with that Atlantic slave trade. We had to do with chattel slavery. Slave import zone. Yes, we had slave import zones here. But all of the major movement was here. 5% of the transatlantic slaves ended up in North America. But because of chattel slavery, that's how our population grew. Right? I just wanted to share that particular map. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. My head thinks it's going in and out. So with that said, when we are talking about that African burial site, which I want to play, the African burial site was created All right. The African burial site was created by foundational Black Americans, a committee of Black Americans in the 90s. We created that African burial site in downtown Manhattan. However, there are several other sacred African burial sites throughout Manhattan, throughout New York. We have the Harlem African Burial Ground, Hunts Point in the Bronx Slave Burial Ground, and of course, the burial ground in downtown Manhattan. All of these burial grounds, the committee was foundational Black Americans. We started this. This had nothing to do with Africa. Africa wasn't lending their support. Africa wasn't a thought. We wasn't asking Africa to help us. We made sure to preserve the sacred land where these slaves were buried and tossed aside without any type of care. But that's also where the problem came in, because during the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, it was us Black Americans yelling out African, we're African American, African this, African that. We were toting African a whole lot. There was no delineation, no ADOS, no freedmen, no foundation, no nothing. We were calling ourselves African Americans. We opened up the door for the bullshit that we have today. So this is the actual ceremony of the burial site that was created by foundational Black American politicians, funded, of course, by federal and state funds and private funding.
For those who have worked to bring this permanent memorial to New York City, it was a moment 16 years in the making.
Do I hear 100?
Actor Avery Brooks acted as master of the day's ceremonies. He emphasized how the historic occasion transcended recent history and was part of the long journey made by victims of the African slave trade.
This day has been a long time coming, and while this weekend's events do not mark the culmination of that journey, it is an historic milestone in our efforts to ensure that our African ancestors buried here in the 17th and 18th centuries will never again be forgotten.
The African Burial Ground National Monument is on a site that is only a fraction of the actual size of the original cemetery that holds as many as 20,000 remains. The National Park Service considers the discovery one of the most significant archaeological finds in U.S. history. In 1991, archaeologists removed 419 sets of remains from the site. The remains were later returned in a traditional African ceremony. Several burial mounds next to the monument distinguish their final resting place. Oscar-winning actor Sidney Poitier and New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg were among dignitaries who paid tribute. The site is the first national monument dealing with slavery in the United States. Bloomberg said it is also one more step toward healing wounds of the past.
We continue to make peace with our past because part of atoning for such a terrible injustice is to acknowledge it.
It is imperative that each of us knows that we own this country because we've already been paid for. It is imperative.
Former Poet Laureate of the United States, Maya Angelou's appearance was one of the most anticipated events of the day. Frail with age, but determined to stand proud, her presence at the ceremony gave weight to the importance of the moment for all Americans.
We are ourselves made honored and honorable by honoring the men and women who've gone before. All of them. Today it's African Americans because the playing field has not been even.
New York architect Rodney Leon beat out 60 other applicants in 2004 to design the monument for the National Park Service.
It is for all those who are lost, for all those who are stolen, for all those who are left behind, for all those who are not forgotten, and it is for the future generations.
Kane Fairbaugh, VOA News, New York.
So that African burial ground and that part of Manhattan and Lower Manhattan, it's like around the corner, it's not too far from the World Trade Center, is right in the financial district, other federal legal buildings. So it's right in the heart. And actually, I'm gonna do a separate video on the actual history of that burial site. Like I said, I am going to do a part 2. However, I want to bring this into the fold here because the guy who was the architect, what's his name? Leonard, forgot his name. What's his name? It was a black guy. He designed it. Mayor David Dinkins actually broke ground on that site in the 90s. So it was the early 2000s when it was completely finished. And that's why they had the ceremony. But that ceremony was just dripped in a lot of African rituals. Sorry, guys. This man here, Gus Savage, foundational Black American. He was born in Detroit, so he's black. He was a congressional representative, and he was the main one that made sure that that African site was established. It says one of his final acts as chairman of the House Committee on Public Buildings and Grounds, excavations and construction at the site of the African burial ground in New York City was temporarily halted in 1992, pending further evaluation by General Services Administration after Savage was able to leverage his reputation as a national political figure to bring attention to the potential importance of the site. The site was eventually designated a National Historical Landmark in 1993 and the National Monument in 2006 by President George W. Bush. Black man from Chicago, making sure that that project got done, got completed. And like I said, there are other burial sites in Hunts Point and in Harlem. Again, the committee was foundational Black American. There were African immigrants and Black immigrants coming into New York around that time. You know, it was really getting flooded, but you still had a very large foundational Black American presence. Now we are not the majority any longer, right? When you look to politics like the Al Sharptons or what have you, they do not represent Black America. They represent only themselves. So I will say this, going back to foundational Black Americans, we are the only ones that is responsible for our lineage and our legacy here in America. And in order to preserve it, in order to get any type of reparations or restitution, you do have to organize. You don't have to wait for Tariq Nasheed to organize. That's not his responsibility. That's not his thing. He elevated and coined that term for us to come together and organize locally, nationally, to get public policy passed specifically for us, by us. That's how it works. You always have to operate in politics. I want to go back to this African. I want to go back to Ghana real quick. In worrying development that will send shockwave and disappointment down the spine of many Africans, Ghana has become the first African nation to sign a comprehensive security defense partnership with the European Union. This was this week, March 25th. Right here. So, Ghana President John Dramani Mahama, speaking at the United Nations in New York, criticizing the U.S. for normalizing the erasure of Black history and warned such policies could have wider global impact. I already played something similar to that. Oh, this is it. Ghana is the first African country to sign a security and defense partnership with the European Union, according to the EU foreign policy chief. Europe and America said, kick rocks, we are against the resolution. Now, the resolution at the United Nations passed because of other nations voting yes for the resolutions for reparations for Africa, right? That doesn't mean they're going to get money. However, if you are calling United States the enemy and saying that we need to change our ways to teach Black history, yada, 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 and you're saying the same thing about Europe, why are you creating a partnership with the very countries, those same countries that you're claiming enslaved you? Where is Ghana independence? You never had independence. You never fought for independence, but you want to fight for reparations. Our reparations, you want the United States to pay you reparations? You never fought for anything. For anything, you were complacent. You were involved firsthand in the transatlantic slave trade. Because this is an oxymoron.
This is the first kind of its kind in African country. And it matters because security in Europe and Africa is deeply, deeply interconnected. The new agreement allows us to work more closely in areas like counterterrorism, conflict prevention, cybersecurity. These are all areas that matter to our citizens, both in Europe, but as well as here in Ghana.
Today's transfer of security equipment, systems, motorcycles, and drones to Ghana will significantly strengthen our ongoing efforts to build the capacity and operational readiness of Ghana's security forces. It will also enhance Ghana's ability to respond to emerging threats and support our goal of promoting peace and stability.
Okay, so you want to promote peace and stability, but you want Europe to pay you reparations. But you always have your hand out for European nations to come in and help protect you, to come in and help bail you out of economic despair. But you want Americans to pay you reparations. You want Americans to chip in for reparations for the Caribbean. No, that's not going to happen. Remember, I did this video here. Let me play the clip that I did here. Because I said Trump said, no, you're not going to get any goddamn where Trump is withdrawing. This is the executive order withdrawing the United States from international organization, conventions, and treaties that are contrary to the interests of the United States. Contrary to the interests of the United States. I'm not going to read all this. You guys could go to the whitehouse.gov and read it, but I wanted to highlight the list of the said organizations. So these are the organizations from which the United States shall withdraw. Carbon-Free Energy Compact, which is BS. Commission, Environmental Corporation, whatever. Freedom Online Coalition, who cares? But I want to scroll down, right? And bring your attention to this. Right here. Permanent Forum on People of African Descent. So when you Google, oh, Trump says no to reparations and withdraw from the United States, he's talking about reparations for Africa. All right, that's enough of that. Y'all could go. I'll put the link to this video because I broke it all down. I went into details about all of these African organizations wanting the United States to pay them reparations and restitution, trying to lump us in with them so that what? So that we can share in the pot. So it's a pot full of money that the white people are going to pay, and we're going to divide up that pot amongst the diaspora. Get the hell out of here. It don't work like that. Listen, CARICOM, the African Union, y'all do what y'all do. What y'all are doing have nothing to do with Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, has nothing to do with it. Al Sharpton does not speak for us. Al Sharpton does not fight for us. Al Sharpton wants his own personal wallet filled. He wants his pockets fat for his own personal greed. He is a grifter. The president of Ghana is a grifter. Anyone talking about saying we want reparations for transatlantic and you're not a foundational Black American, you're not a freedman, you're not American descendants of slave or slavery, you are a grifter. You're a grifter. Because I don't understand. I don't understand how you can sit up here and act like we owe you something when you were the ones who had a hand in selling us. Let me get to, and I'm like, I think I am going to open up the phone lines. Stupid. Bill and Co. I just covered this topic on my channel. Great discussion. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Belinico. Just wondering, when do we Americans will find our place within a unity culture, and with this we change and lead everything fairly? I'm not completely understanding Love Soul. Just wondering, when do we or when will we find our place within a unity culture? Well, I think I understand what you're trying to say. Basically, we need to work together as a culture. Are you talking about Black Americans, or are you talking about all Black people throughout the diaspora? Work together how? If it's for the purpose of reparations, there needs to be delineation. You could do business with who you want to do business with. You could make sure that you are creating unity in your community. creating a sustainable community, an economic profitable community where you live at. Sometimes all that "can we all just get along" motto doesn't work. That's like a fairy tale. Like we need to think, we need to be more realistic. Dana, another problem is a lot of our monuments that Black Americans have is under the African name, not under freedmen. Absolutely. And that is why I said we opened the hen house for the wolves to come in and leech off of us. We opened up that door. Again, we have to start taking some accountability. We opened up that door. Jesse Jackson said, "I'm Black and I'm proud." Yeah, but he keep hope alive and African American this, African American that, and we ran with that. We were told, and yeah, we African, we have history, we were kings and queens, and that was during the time to where we were somewhat invisible here in America. But we opened up the hen house for the wolves to come in. Now they're here, leeching off us and eating lovely. So what are you going to do about it? Now they're panicking because we have this hashtag FBA and people are pulling completely away from that African American term. Don't call me African American. I am a Black American. They are partnering with the colonizer. Yeah, you talk all this shit coming here just to be partnering with the colonizers, but you also want the colonizers to pay you. So in politics, we need to be mindful of what is imperative. Monuments built by the system, DIMS, are small in comparison to power moves. Absolutely. You're absolutely right, Love Soul. Because there are more important things we need to be focused on than monuments. That is small potatoes. You're absolutely right. I would never push against creating sacred places for, enslaved people who was harmed here, and giving them a proper burial rest. But you're absolutely right. Monuments and all this stuff, it is built by the system and is small in comparison to actual power moves. And that is what the focus has to be with foundational Black Americans. We need to be focused on power moves. That's it. That's my message today. We need to be focused on power moves. "67% of people," I asked the question, should Tariq Nasheed remove 19 Keys from his documentary? 67% say yes, 33% says no. Okay. Now, should I open up the phone lines? Put a 1 in the chat for yes, a 2 in the chat for no, because I've been up here for 90 minutes and maybe it was good enough. Should I open up the phone lines? I'm doing another poll real quick. Put a 1 for yes, open up the phone lines, and a 2 for no. Okay, 1. So, I can't. I can't open up the phone lines. I forgot. I got to sign up for my subscription again. Oh my God. I'm gonna have to come back on Friday to open up the phone lines, guys. I could drop the link. So what I'll do is I'll drop the link. I'll drop the restream link, and whoever is able to come up real quick, briefly, please do so. All right. So I dropped click on the restream link. I forgot that I gotta reset my account, and that's gonna take too much time me doing it right now while I'm live. So I did drop the link. So I give anyone about 5 minutes with 3 minutes. See who pops in the next 3 minutes or so. Listen, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you tuning in. I am going to do a part 2 because I want to break down Al Sharpton and Ben Crump remarks at the UN. And I do have one more clip because they held the press conference. So I see somebody. Who's this? Oh, Love Soul.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi. I was just trying to figure out what value is the brother supposed to bring to the documentary. Maybe I don't know what the topic is going to be just yet, but um, I'm very familiar with Tariq. But the other guy, what is he supposed to
19
bring?
keys.
Yeah, 19 keys.
I don't know. I don't, that's a good question.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think he's a Mason. I'm not saying that anything against that or anything, but I think that that's a position that he kind of powers off of
Mhm.
because of that affiliation. You know, he was able to do very well with what he's doing now, all the way up to what he's doing now.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I did pull up a quick bio of him. So he's like he's a wait, I'm just gonna mute you up for a minute. It's a little bit of feedback.
Sure.
Sorry, this oh wait, testing, testing. Okay, yeah. So 19 keys. Where's this thing at right here? It says he's a prominent thought leader, entrepreneur, author, focused on mental and financial and spiritual empowerment, utilizing a blend of metaphysics, AI, and business acumen. He leads the high level club and high level media community, teaching principles to unlock rusty lock minds and create generational wealth through self sovereignty. He is from Oakland, California. His focus, with a focus on education, discipline, and consciousness, he overcame a childhood legal issue by reading, which solidified his commitment to knowledge based empowerment. His philosophy, inspired by the 1930s quote referring to 19 million rusty locks, people needing well-oiled keys. The number symbolizes the spectrum of human consciousness. Core principles focus on high-level living, which includes taking action to turn thoughts into reality, building systems over just laboring and fostering community. Projects, founder of Crown Society, co-founder of Goldwater Corp, and host of High Level Conversation podcast. Digital Nation advocates for building a digital nation where members create and own and sustain value through unity. I'm going to unmute you. Okay.
Okay. I think he's a Moor, and I don't have any problems with that. It's just observing those who are trying to be in some sort of leadership, you know, for us. And but yeah, Tariq doesn't need them. Tariq can hold it alone. And of course, we're always gonna be open to, you know, we need more of us on the front line per se. But 19 Keys, I just don't know what he represents. I just don't feel him as a representative for the foundational Black people.
Yeah, I mean, and that's understandable because it's nothing wrong. And listen, what he's doing is positive. So I'm never going to knock someone, who is doing something positive with their time. But when you go out here and you're critiquing somebody else, it's just like, where you going with this? Especially if you have a rapport with the person you're critiquing and you never even mention anything to that person. But again, he is a Pan-African, so his alliances
Okay.
is going to be Africa first.
And you know, I love what you said about what are you going to bring back here. That is so necessary. I'm so glad. And please always land on that one because we need that message, man.
Yeah, it's so true because if you look at other nations, other nationality, other groups of people, they give back to where they come from. They they bridge that, they create a bridge to bring that money back and build where they come from.
Yep.
So, but thank you. I appreciate you coming up, Love Soul.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Okay, I have another person. Source not known to spot. Okay. Aiko? Can you hear me? Let me see. It says try another layout. Okay, he's thinking. Oh, your thing paused. Okay, there you go. Can you hear me? Okay, we can see you, but we can't hear you. I don't know. Can you hear me? All right. It's something wrong with your connection. Go out and come back in. Let's see something. Hello? Telephones are always better and easier. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me? All right. Hide other sources to display it. Let me see. Let me stop sharing. I don't know. Ayiko? That's how you pronounce your name? Okay, so I can't see you. I can't hear you. Go out. Let me remove him for a second. Yeah, you need to go out and come back in. All right. So listen, I pinned the link. If you guys Oh, so far in the poll, 28% said yes, US and Europe should pay Africa reparations. 73% said no. But who are the 28%? Are y'all paying African or Africans? Of course, you're going to be like, yes, pay us. Ain't nothing wrong with that. We ain't going to pay you. We ain't going to pay you. Black Americans are not going to support that because if you want to, if we're going to pay you, we're trying to get our own reparations. All right, let's see. Who is this? I don't see anyone. All right. Ayiko, something is going on with your connection. Your connection is not strong enough. What's going on with the connection? I think he's overseas. Overseas, I don't know. I'm about to wrap this up. Did I pin it? I did pin the link, right? Yeah. Let me drop it in here again if anybody else wants to come up. I'm dropping the restream link. And I'm about to get up out of here. All right. Okay. Ayiko, you're having a connection problem. You're having a serious connection problem. But I'm about to get up out of here, guys. He probably is African. Honey, you got that African Wi-Fi. Shout out to Divine, honey. I gotta call him. Well, I'm gonna tell him to call me. Shout out to Divine for being out there. Yeah, I can't get you. I don't know what is going on. It's not connecting. All right. It's not connecting. Okay, we have another person. Who is this?
Hi, can you hear me? It's Mad Ruka.
Hi, how are you?
I am well. Jane, I just want to say I love your commentary all the time. It's Mavrika born, but they would not let me change my name.
Oh,
So I love it. But as far as that Tariq situation in 19 Keys, yeah, he's like from the conscious community. He's real big on Facebook. And I was just at Tariq's page a while ago, and he was asking, should he take 19 Keys out, you know? And, people, it was like a poll. And I said yes. I was one of the people who said yes, he needs to be taken out. Because if he felt away, all that him and Tariq are, friends, I guess. Well, whatever you want to call it, business associates.
mm-hmm.
But he should have let that be known, or if anything, he should have had that conversation with Tariq, you know?
Right.
If that's the way he felt, right?
I agree.
Yeah, so I feel he needs to be. I'm big on energy, and if I feel like somebody is like harboring feelings or feeling some type of way, and I don't know, I'm clueless about how they feel. You got to get away from it.
Right.
Because that's the first thing you should be able to talk to. If you're cordial with that person, or so business associates, friends, whatever it may be, you should let me know. Don't go talking about it in a negative light somewhere else.
No, and I agree with that. If don't go talk about something that I coined or created that I'm a part of, behind my back, even though it was on a podcast, if you got an issue, say it to me. Or after the interview, I don't know. It just should have been a conversation. It could have been a casual conversation, for clarity on his part. But
At least before he went to the interview. Oh, I'm sorry.
no. Yeah, I mean, it's listen, you people are grown, so it's like I'm not going to ask somebody permission. I just think if y'all two was in connection, because Tariq was like, we met up here, we had lunch here, he met Shaka Bars, he's in his documentary. They have a strong rapport. So
Mm-hmm.
in casual conversation, y'all should have not saying, "Oh, can I talk about this?" No, it should have came up like, "Well, I don't understand this. What is going on with the diaspora? Why y'all never had that conversation? Why that subject never come up?"
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that's a little suspect.
Yeah. Yeah. But for me, I was like, I take him out, take him out. But I don't want no negative energy a part of my production. And I would look at him like a little sideways after this.
Right. Stay right there for a second. Hold on for a second. Ayiko, are you there? Ayiko. Honey, your shit is like, it's just constantly, it's just thinking. Ayiko. No. Honey, yeah, you're gonna have to, I don't know. You're gonna have to figure your connection out. And I'm about to get up out of here. I don't have time for
Oh, I just wanted to say hi to you, then.
Thank
Oh, and
you.
can you tell Judge Brown, Mavrika said hi?
Mavrika. Okay, I'll let him know.
Yes, I love watching you too. But have a nice evening. Have a good one, okay?
You too. Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right.
Listen, if you live outside the United States, get Starlink. Have Starlink satellite deliver. It delivers international, because you'll get Wi-Fi, you'll get a stronger connection. Order Starlink if you are in whatever country in Africa, honey. And I wanted to hear from Aiko, but the connection, it wasn't connecting. Listen, I'll make sure I have the phone lines open. I may just do a call-in show just on Friday. But anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Appreciate you. Love you. And I will see you in the next video. All right. Good night. Let me end this poll here and let me do the outro. Who is this? Let me see. Okay, one last time. Aiko, what is going on? He keeps trying and nothing isn't happening, honey. Nothing isn't happening. All right, good night, everybody.